this. It's
something that'll change the world and human life as we know it.
He knows. He's seen the light.
When Monty talks, it's painful.
Monty, you have been so instrumental in kind of pointing me in the right direction. And
it was about looking at your character defects in spirituality.
It's the integration of clinical practices with the 12 steps.
It's an absolute pleasure. He certainly knows a lot of people. He's got a lot of energy. And sometimes when you don't have so much energy, he picks you up and carries you.
Having the Monty'man there certainly helps.
This is one of the places that is about the business of the solution.
The views expressed on this special broadcast of the Take 12 radio show do not necessarily reflect those of KHLT Recovery Broadcasting or its affiliates. KHLT is not affiliated with any particular 12-step fellowship.
Now here's that guy who's getting less popular minute by minute. Your host, the Monty'man.
That's right, getting less popular all the time. You know why? Because I tend to tell the truth. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm going to tell you the truth, and some of you don't like it. You just don't want to hear the truth. But I'm telling you, if you want to be set free, you need to hear it, and you need to know it, and you live it, and live it. And I fall short many times, but I have a God that loves me just the way I am, who accepts me back every time I come to him and say, God, I just blew it. He says, that's okay, son. Let's get up on that horse and try again. So if you've fallen off the horse and you're just freaking out, listen, the horse ain't going nowhere. He's there for you. God is there for you, and he will lift you up if you will lift him up. If you will recognize him as the one who can do for you what you can't do for yourself. That's very simple. But we're complicated people, aren't we? All right, I'm going to be touching on a topic that I've ranted and raved over, and I'm going to put the lid on this topic for a while. So this is the last time you're going to hear me talk about it for a while. And normally, Interview Friday is we have a guest on that we interview, and I really felt like this was important to kind of close out this topic and kind of, not shut the door on it, but maybe move on from it a little bit. And that topic, I'm not even going to tell you what it is yet, okay? But I'm going to preface it with something out of the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous. And by the way, this show is for everyone. It's called How It Works, and this is just the paragraph. This is the first paragraph in the chapter 5, How It Works. I'm reading from the third edition of the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous, page 58. Page 58. And this is what it says, and I'll explain to you why I read this to you. Many of you know this by heart. Many of you have never heard it. This is in regards to recovery from alcoholism. That's what this was originally about. This can be applied to recovery from anything that is so easily besetting you. And here goes. It reads, rarely have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our path. Those who do not recover are people who cannot or will not completely give themselves to this simple program. Not the fellowship, but the program, which is what I'm reading you now. Usually men and women who are constitutionally incapable of being honest with themselves. So who are the people that don't recover? Usually men and women who are constitutionally incapable of being honest. It goes on to read, there are such unfortunates. They are not at fault. They seem to have been born that way. They are naturally incapable of grasping and developing a manner of living which demands rigorous honesty. Their chances are less than average. There are those, too, who suffer from grave emotional and mental disorders, but many of them do recover if they have the capacity to be honest. All right, so who am I talking to today? Well, I'm talking to everybody, but I'm specifically focusing on those of you who have the capacity to be honest with yourself. If you're not able to grasp anything I've said today, it's probably going to be because you don't have the capacity to be honest with yourself. And that's okay. No criticism here. If you don't have that capacity to be honest with yourself, there's probably issues that you need to work on. And I get it if you don't get what I'm going to talk about. I totally get it. But if you do have the capacity to be honest with yourself, which I will suggest, and I'm guessing are just about each and every one of you, if you would be honest with yourself, that you have that capability, then I think you're going to get something out of this show. You may walk away from this show shaking your head once more and disagreeing with me, and that's fine. But I'm going to challenge you on that, to consider what I'm sharing. All right? So when we come back from our first break, I'm going to let you in on the topic for today's show. So don't go away. We'll be right back. Hey there, it's Monty Meyer from Take 12 Recovery Radio. Well, I'd like to take this opportunity to let you know about a brand new service being provided to those of you in the Willamette Valley and surrounding areas of Oregon. It's the ARS program, Addiction Recovery Services, being made available Tuesdays and Thursdays from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. at Oak Creek Christian Center, located at 5775 Columbus Street Southeast in Albany, Oregon. If you or a loved one are living with addiction issues such as chemical dependency, alcoholism, opiate addiction, pornography, sexual addiction, eating disorders, or even codependency issues, we are here to help you. Here at ARS, we have resources available that you may not be aware of that can help you or your loved one recover from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. We offer experience, strength, and hope, as we have been there ourselves, and feel it imperative to assist you in obtaining the help you need to begin to experience the life you were meant to and created to enjoy. Well, perhaps you are not personally afflicted by any form of addiction, but you know and love someone who is. You've tried everything and feel at a loss as to what to do next to help. May I encourage you to pick up the phone today and call us here at 541-926-7981. You can call Monday through Thursday from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. to schedule an appointment with our Addiction Resource and Support Department. You don't have to belong to a church or even believe in God to take the advantage of our services. All you need is a willingness to seek help. That number again, 541-926-7981. That's 541-926-7981 to schedule an appointment. We look forward to hearing from you, and remember, you don't have to go through this alone.
As men and women who have recovered from utterly hopeless states of addiction ourselves, we know all too well what it's like to battle addiction daily. We are Origins Recovery Centers. Here at Origins, we have taken that which we have learned along the way, excised anything unhelpful and unnecessary, infused it with the latest medical research and innovative therapeutic methods, and created what we know to be the absolute gold standard in substance abuse treatment. And Origins provides the most preeminent aftercare and relapse prevention program available in the United States. For a free confidential clinical assessment, call toll-free 888-843-8935. That's 888-843-8935. Origins, delivering real solutions for real families.
Yes, indeed. Listen, my friends, reality is much more than a feeling, is it not? I hope so. I hope you get that our feelings, they can betray us. A lot of us are trying to suppress how we feel. Life is tough. I get it. It is stressful. It is very difficult, and it's not getting easier. The price of everything is going up. The quality of everything is going down. I mean, just look at something as simple as a candy bar, for crying out loud. $2 for a king-size candy bar at 7-Eleven? Something like that? Depending on where you live. Maybe $1.50. And they're not king-size. They're minis. Or they should be. You can go from that to gas prices to, whatever your viewpoint is on the minimum wage. We do know that it's very difficult for people to live and pay bills when prices continue to go up, but the current wages don't. I mean, there's all sorts of reasons for stress. Heart disease, cancer. Things are difficult. And I'm going to suggest that medicating the way we feel isn't going to help. It isn't. We tried that. We've been there. We've done that. And it got us into trouble, didn't it? Well, I'm going to talk to you about a topic that I'm going to not talk about for a while after this show. And I'm going to talk to you with a little different attitude and approach that I did a couple weeks ago on the topic of marijuana for recreational purposes. Oh, I know. You're going, boy, that's what I was afraid of. Well, just hear me out. Would you please? I want to talk to you about a website called weedhurts.org. And I want to tell you that the folks at Weed Hurts out of Scottsdale, Arizona, as well as those of us here at Take 12 Radio and myself, we're not trying to take your rights away. We're not trying to tell you that you don't have a freedom of choice. We're not trying to ruin your fun or any of that stuff. We don't have an agenda other than we have your best interest at heart. And so I'm going to read some material to you. I'm going to read 3 paragraphs here, and then I'm going to share with you a person's personal story, and then I'm just going to leave it up to you. You're smart, right? And then you just decide for yourself. Well, this comes from weedhurts.org. Contrary to the myth supported by popular culture, cannabis dependence is a grim reality for a growing number of frequent users. While many casual consumers may never experience addiction, those that do often find withdrawal to not only be real, but worse than they imagined possible from a harmless plant. Additionally, prolonged use often causes the very problems medical marijuana patients seek to cure. Not always, but often. Including depression, anxiety, and chronic pain. Worsening symptoms combined with the inability to quit leave sufferers with no good option, commonly leading to a downward spiral of sadness and despair. Well, why some of us become dependent on marijuana when others don't remains a mystery. But if cannabis addiction has become a problem in your life, you're not alone. According to recent studies, 1 in 6 teens who consume marijuana on a regular basis develop some level of dependence, as do up to 1/2 of all adult daily users. While the severity of marijuana withdrawal is often less than what would be expected from that of so-called hard drugs, some heavy users, as well as those sensitive to the effects of cannabis, can and do experience symptoms that are much of those like those associated with alcohol, opiates, or cocaine. Weedhurts.org exists to provide those wishing to free themselves from cannabis addiction the tools, techniques, resources, and inspiration necessary to do so. The advice you'll find here is based on the real-world experience of those who have successfully overcome their dependency issues, not on government-sponsored pseudoscience or faith-based moral imperatives. Our goal is not to further prohibitionist policies, stifle medical marijuana research, or deprive anyone the freedom of choice. We simply wish to help those who have found out the hard way that, at least to some, marijuana is addictive. All right. Having said that, I would like to read to you a true tale of marijuana addiction. This is John's story by John Livingston. This was posted October 31st of this year, and this is his experience. You can't deny somebody's experience, right? If you're somebody that's been smoking marijuana for centuries upon centuries and you've had no negative consequences to it, that's your experience. This is John's experience. So let me just share his story with you. John says, if you had told me 4 years ago that marijuana could be addictive, I would have laughed in your face, labeled you a radical, prohibitionist, and summarily discounted anything you had to say. But it's been a long 4 years. And in that time, my personal experience with marijuana addiction, abuse, and withdrawal have forced me to question everything I thought I knew about cannabis and its potential pitfalls. 4 years ago, I was, in fact, working towards a career in the medical marijuana industry as a lifelong advocate for marijuana legalization. I found myself caught up in the wave of excitement driven by society's growing acceptance of my all-time favorite plant. More than anything, I wanted to be part of this change. I wanted to spread the word my 25-year relationship with weed had taught me, that cannabis was harmless, non-addictive, and medicinal. I knew what I was talking about, or at least I thought I did. Most of those 25 years were spent as an avid, though irregular, smoker. While I enjoyed marijuana immensely, my professional interests and social circles generally had the effect of moderating my consumption. I take pleasure in weed when it came around, running through my stash in quick order, and then go weeks, months, even years before taking another toke. There were times, particularly in my youth, when my intake was what most would consider excessive. But even as a frequent user, I never seemed to have any significant problems letting it go when financial considerations or personal responsibilities forced me to reevaluate my priorities. In 2010, however, everything changed. This was the year Arizona's Proposition 203 passed, adding my state to a growing list directly challenging federal drug policy and authority over the right to self-medicate. It was also a year that saw me seeking a change of career, a fortuitous coincidence, I thought at the time. As a long-term migraine sufferer, I had a valid condition which qualified me to receive a medical marijuana card with permission to cultivate. And that's just what I did. In 6 months' time, I was harvesting my first crop of high-THC Sensimelia, while fine-tuning the hydroponic system I had designed with the intent to soon bring to market. What better way to redefine myself than to provide needy patients with a tool necessary to grow their own medicine? If there was one phase that best summarized my early experience growing my own, it would be, quote, kid in a candy store, end quote. Seemingly overnight, I went from haggling over the price of Mexican brickweed to trimming up more medical-grade ganja than I could smoke in a year. In times past, I had often argued against the theory of increasing pot potency, but it didn't take me long to adopt this truth as my own. The stuff was fire. But it was, after all, no different than the countless high-quality strains being sold to sick people across the California border for the past 14 years. Reassured by the belief in marijuana as medicine, as well as the fact my bud was never touched by herbicides or pesticides or the like, I bought into the well-known lie of weed being a healthy alternative to alcohol. I purchased my first vaporizer, and before I knew it, was getting high nearly every night. I won't lie. Everything seemed great starting out. The euphoria, inspiration, and creativity that was brought on by my marijuana consumption was a welcome change from the workaday lifestyle that had become the norm. Granted, I spent more time under the influence of cannabis dreaming of my wonderful future than actually creating it, but I remained quite functional for a time, even as my tolerance grew, requiring me to consume more and more to achieve the same effect. I was moving forward on my business plan, slowly. Despite occasional bouts of fuzzy thinking, my migraines were gone, and I was sleeping better than I had in years. Unfortunately, these good times were not meant to last. Well, 2 years later, in 2012, is when I first began to recognize my weed habit had become problematic. I had argued many a time in the past with members of the anti-drug crowd that amotivational syndrome didn't exist. Yet, I couldn't deny that while my aspirations remained grandiose while under the influence, my efforts to make them a reality had begun to falter. By this time, my use, fueled by an ever-increasing tolerance to intoxication as well as a low-grade depression in periods of sobriety, had increased to 5 or more times per day, excluding the medibles I had recently added to my diet. I was no longer sleeping well, routinely waking up 2 or 3 hours after my last hit, needing another one before I could doze off again. My migraines returned, as bad as they ever were, and for the first time in my life, I began to have problems with generalized anxiety and panic attacks. At the behest of my wife, who was invariably tiring of my detached presence and declining health, I decided to take a break from growing and let my stock run out. Well, that's when the real fun started. It was 3 full days past my last hit before I slept at all, and when I did, it came fitful and restless. By the end of the first week, I had developed flu-like symptoms, chronic stomach upset, a sore throat, and my appetite was essentially non-existent. When I did eat, I would fill up instantly. When I did sleep, it was marked by vivid, frightful dreams and sheet-soaked night sweats. My mood cycled rapidly between high anxiety and intense depression, often with no definable external cause, and even the slightest stress would send me into fits of fear-filled depression. My muscles were so tense, they'd form into painful knots and spasm frequently. I had a constant low-grade headache that seemed to never relent, and my fatigue was so great, it made working nearly impossible endeavor. In other words, I was a wreck. 1 month from the time I quit, life had only gotten worse. While the severity of most physical symptoms had decreased dramatically, anxiety and depression rose to the forefront, compounded by the frustrating inability to think clearly or focus. Insomnia remained marked, and dreaming continued to be a dark and frightening experience. I questioned my relationships. I questioned my career, and I questioned my existence. Nothing brought me pleasure. Nothing brought me peace. Every day was simply a repeat of the one before, a constant battle, looking forward to nothing more than the 3 or 4 hours of disturbed sleep I might get long after the sun had set. Despite everything I thought I knew, despite all the conventional wisdom to the contrary, I was experiencing profoundly powerful and long-lasting withdrawals from this harmless plant. It took nearly 6 months from the time I quit before I felt what I considered to be normal. Though most issues were resolved within 3, during this period I often questioned whether this all could be due to pot. Was there something wrong with me to begin with? Maybe marijuana was the best medicine. A medicine I needed? Did I mess myself up for life? Was I going crazy? But in my heart, I knew the answers. No. I wasn't sick, I wasn't crazy, and marijuana wasn't something I required. As my memory returned, another consequence of abuse and withdrawal, so did the realization of truth. I was happy and healthy before using potent cannabis on a daily basis, and after 6 of what I still consider to be quite literally the toughest months of my life, I worked to the point of being happy and healthy once more. Since beginning my journey to sobriety, I've had the pleasure of speaking with a growing number of recovering users, many with stories strikingly similar to mine. People who thought there was something terribly wrong with them. People who thought they were alone in their fight. People who believed weed to be harmless and non-addictive. People who learned the hard way that they were wrong. It's for them that I write this tale. I'll be the first to admit that our stories aren't common, at least not at the present time. Not everyone that uses marijuana will develop significant issues with abuse and dependence, but a certain percentage will. As a member of that percentage, I hope my experience can serve as proof that for those experiencing problems with cannabis, that healing is possible. That healing from withdrawal is only a matter of time. Well, that's John's story. Hold on, don't go away. I've got more when we come back.
Hey there, this is the Monty'man from Take 12 Recovery Radio. You know, many of us have attended all sorts of addiction symposiums and treatment conventions, and so much of the time we walk away from these events feeling like we've been preaching to the choir just one more time. May I suggest a different kind of substance abuse and addiction treatment event? The Evolution of Addiction Treatment Conference, February 5th through the 8th, 2015, at the Westin Los Angeles Airport Hotel and Convention Center. The current field of substance abuse and addiction treatment has been evolving for almost 8 decades now, and during this time, we have seen many important developments as well as many failed experiments. It seems time to step back and conduct a professional inventory of where we have been, where we are now, and where we are heading. Well, this conference will provide a forum that encourages professional dialogues of controversial issues, showcases innovative and creative treatment approaches, and offers an overview of the field and its future. For more information, visit www.theevolutionofaddictiontreatment.com. Join me and many of my guests as we attend the Evolution of Addiction Treatment Conference, February 5th through the 8th, at the Westin Los Angeles Airport Hotel and Convention Center, 2015.
Men, women, and their families experience tremendous pain and suffering due to the struggles they face from substance abuse and its co-occurring mental health challenges. They need to find a safe place for peace and healing. The Rabia Addiction Healing Center was born out of a deep desire to provide that safe and powerful healing environment. The Rabia exists to help people recover from addictions by developing and maintaining healthy, meaningful relationships with God, self, and others. To speak with an addiction specialist, call 1-855-652-4325. That's 1-855-652-4325. Or visit our website at www.therapia.net. Therapia Addiction Healing Center, restoring lives one step at a time.
All the kids in the marketplace say, well, walk like an Egyptian.
And welcome back to the show. Yes, indeedy. All right. So I just finished up reading John's story. That was his experience. That's not going to be everybody's. I get that. But are you being honest with yourself? Really and truly? or are you demanding your right to self-medicate? That's my question. And if you're demanding your right to self-medicate and the government has said, yes, it's okay to self-medicate, I got to tell you, I doubt that you're just sitting at home stoned. I mean, I know some people, they get stoned and they don't move. That was me, actually. That's why I never really liked getting stoned. I was Mr. Go, go, go chemical guy. But there's a lot of people walking around intoxicated. How responsible is that? Just because something's legal doesn't mean that it's wise. True? Well, let me expound a little bit on weedhurts.org. Weedhurts.org exists to educate, motivate, assist, and inspire those suffering the ill effects of marijuana abuse, addiction, and withdrawal. In an age where marijuana is increasingly viewed as medicine, we aim to remind those seeking relief that cannabis, like any other medicine, can be as detrimental as it is beneficial, if not approached with knowledge and respect. In a time when celebrity role models irresponsibly advocate marijuana consumption to pad their pockets, we stand to arm our youth with the facts necessary to make informed decisions relevant to their well-being. Despite the benign image commonly portrayed by the media at large, frequent use of marijuana can lead to a host of mental and physical problems, many of which have yet to be recognized by a medical community still playing catch-up after our decades-long war on cannabis research. Our goal is to tell you the truth. We are not a government organization, nor do we accept government funding. We do not seek to further the prohibitionist policies that have stunted our understanding of this complex, active plant. Nor do we support the criminalization of users. We view drug dependence as a public health concern, not a moral failing or affront to society, and feel those with problems should be treated with compassion and care, not with felony records and jail terms. I agree. Weedhurts.org was founded by people like you. People who once bought into the lie of marijuana being harmless, only to eventually discover pot's dark side, either through their own personal experience or through that of those they love. Our authors include former cannabis advocates, medical marijuana patients, and daily users, many of whom have fought and won their own battle with addiction and withdrawal, wishing to pass on the knowledge earned to others. We're not teetotalers or outside observers. We've been there. We've done that. And we're here to help you. The website is weedhurts.org. It's out of Scottsdale, Arizona. Of course, internationally over the internet. Check it out, would you? That's all I'm asking. So let's return to this statement in the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous, which can be applied to anybody when it comes to anything that is so easily besetting you. And let's unpack this for a minute. It says, rarely have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our path. What path? The path of recovery. The path of the 12 steps. That's what it's about to explain. It says those who do not recover are people who cannot or will not completely give themselves to this simple program. They either cannot because of some grave emotional or mental disorder, or they refuse to completely give themselves to this simple program. What's the program? The 12 steps. It's not the fellowship. And then it goes on to say who these people are. Usually men and women who are constitutionally incapable of being honest with themselves. There are such unfortunates. They are not at fault. They seem to have been born that way. They are naturally incapable of grasping and developing a manner of living which demands rigorous honesty. Living your life, my friends, to its full potential demands rigorous honesty. It demands the ability to be honest with yourself. If you're going to live your life at its full potential. Now, if you don't want to live your life at your full potential, that's your business. But I don't think it's always because you're unconstitutionally incapable of being honest with yourself. I think it's because we're selfish and self-centered people. But we end up cheating ourselves. And this statement says that people that are not capable of being honest with themselves, their chances are less than average. There are those, too, who suffer from grave emotional and mental disorders. There are people that are so mentally ill that they do not have the capacity to be honest. But even some of them, if you could sneak in a little bit of honesty, many of them do recover if they've got that capacity to be honest with themselves. So, my question to you is, when it comes to demanding the legalization of self-medicating, are you being honest with yourself? Are you really? Even when it comes to the use of marijuana for medical purposes. Look, I'm not a doctor. I don't know if in your case, marijuana is something that you need to have because of your medical situation. I'm just asking you to be honest with yourself. Look, at addicts and alcoholics, we love to justify. And man, if some of us can get our hands on something legal and to temporarily convince ourselves that we're being morally square, we'll do that. We like to be under the influence of mind-altering substances because of the feeling it gives us. But life, just like that song from Boston, is more than a feeling, right? You know, if you have honestly gone to a medical professional and you've done a workup and you've been prescribed cannabis for whatever reason, and it's all legitimate, and it really is, only you know that, then I get it. But come on. How many listening to the sound of my voice right now can really say that they're being honest with themselves when it comes to this issue? Just do that. Where's your integrity lie? You've heard me ask this question before, and it's a question I ask myself when it comes to all sorts of things. And it saves my bacon. I'm telling you. And this is the question. In light of my past experience, my current circumstances, and my future hopes and dreams, what is the wise thing for me to do? Whether it's smoking pot, whether it's buying a new car, whether it's getting into a relationship, whether it's getting out of a relationship, whether it's picking a sponsor, whatever it is, in light of your past experience, your current circumstances, and your future hopes and dreams, what's the wise thing for you to do? If you'll ask yourself that before you act, you may be surprised how successful your life goes. Well, that's it. I'm not going to bring this issue up again for some time. I'm not going to say I'm going to put it to bed completely, but it's not going to be the topic of discussion at Take 12 Radio here for a while. We may chit-chat about it on one of the shows in passing, but it's not going to be the main topic. So you're going to get a break from the Monty'man's rants about this marijuana thing. I'm just asking you to be honest with yourself, if you're capable of doing that. I would suspect that if you're all ticked off at me right now and you're just freaking out and you're just a white knuckle sobriety guy and you don't care for the rights of anybody else and blah, 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 you're probably not a person that has the ability to be honest with himself. And I wasn't talking to you anyway. If you disagree with me and you have a different opinion than I do, that doesn't mean you're not honest with yourself. It just means you disagree. But if you're freaking out and, you may not have the capability of being honest with yourself right now. I'm not saying that you don't have it in the past, and I'm not saying you're not able to in the future. But you may be in an emotional state right now where you're so ticked off that it's hard to be honest. Look, I've been there. Heck, I'm a talk show host, for crying out loud. I get so emotional about things that I don't see clearly, and I spout off, and it hinders my ability to be honest with myself. That's all. So we need to pause maybe and consider some of the things that we hear. Do the research yourself, would you please? Okie dokie. Well, there you go. The website again is weedhurts.org. Check it out. Listen, thanks for tuning in. Really, thanks for tuning in. And perhaps maybe somebody else will benefit from this show. If not you, pass it on, pass it along. But do something right now that'll make the person you will be tomorrow proud to have been the person you are today. Until our next broadcast, this is the Monty'man, and I'm wishing God's perfect serenity for you.
This has been a broadcast of KHLT Recovery Broadcasting.
Kitty, 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 kitty.